Prospects for strengthening the fintech ecosystem was the core focus of the second social meeting of the Fintech Association of Nigeria in Lagos. This coincided with the first-year anniversary of the association since its inception as the driver of the fintech industry activities in Nigeria. President of the Council, Dr. Segun Aina, in his opening remarks, gave an overview of how the body has played a key role in shaping fintech in the country.
In the last 1 year of our, of our existence, it's incredible the kind of engagements and the kind of things that have happened that the association have been able to put together. We've had a lot of interactions with operators, different segments of the economy. We've had engagements, very, very intensive engagements with regulators, the Central Bank of Nigeria. We had 2 meetings with the leadership of the Central Bank of Nigeria. In fact, as recent as 3 weeks ago, 2 members of the association were invited to be part of the retreat of the Central Bank in Kaduna, looking at the FSS 2020, Financial Sector Strategy 2020, looking at bills that will affect the banking industry going forward. We've engaged with the Minister for Science and Technology, Dr. Onu. We engaged with the Minister for Communications, Bayo Shitu, and of course the Minister for Trade and Investment, and also the Minister of Finance, informally, and going to the international community. About 2 weeks ago, we had a visit, actually within a week, 2 visits from the international community, the DFID, the British DFID, and then the Lord Mayor of London. They requested for us to participate in the program put together by Fintech Association of Nigeria, FINA, and CCHub. CCHub is also a member of the association, and a lot of issues were discussed, which will lead to so many other relationships that can be created between the British government and Nigeria, technology, the fintech sector in Nigeria. 2 days after, the 29th of June, at the offices of Banwa and Nikodalo, we hosted a delegation from the IMF World Bank through a letter written to us by the Federal Minister of Finance, asking us to engage with them and give them, some insight into what is going on and what we are doing. So within 1 year, we've done a lot of local stuff and a lot of international stuff. And looking at Africa, we are also working with the AU to see how we can get them to support us in setting up an African Fintech Council. So all of us will be meeting at the level of Africa, benefiting from the African Free Trade Zone area that has just been inaugurated. Unfortunately, Nigeria is one of the few countries that have not signed. And I was at an African program yesterday, where the president of South Africa, when he was speaking, said Nigeria should take his time, but they should say. But I read the paper today that maybe during the visit to the president confirmed that Nigeria will now sign. So with Nigeria signing, of course, the whole of Africa has signed on to that, and we can use that platform to create African-wide market access for technology products in Nigeria and everywhere, and widen the market.
In his goodwill message, the president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers in Nigeria, Dr. Uche Olowo, said the CIBN was a strong believer in the fintech industry and its value to the financial services sector.
We identified that in the institute and are taking steps in making sure we identify with this association. I did in various interviews I've granted so far. I said Nigeria missed the first revolution, industrial revolution, the second and the third. The fourth must not pass us by because we have all the potentials and resources. And I'm happy of the revolution that is going on in the fintech space, especially in Nigeria, because we stand on advocacy in the financial landscape.
Executive Director, Access Bank, Mr. Ade Bajomo, in a brief keynote on the fintech revolution, identified the opportunities, challenges, and the outlook for the Nigerian market.
From a tech perspective, there are 4 revolutions that have been identified, fundamentally 4 revolutions. So in the 18th century, there was the invention of the steam engine. The railway engine, the railways and the steam engine actually drove a lot of revolution. I remember I said technology is about information and latency. So what's driving this revolution at a very high level is a combination of 2 things. It's a combination of reducing information latency, so that's powered by information technology, but also precision engineering. That 2 combination at a very high level is what you're seeing. So it started with the steam engine at that time, really. Then it progressed in the second revolution into mass production. So Henry Ford and people like that started, doing production line and, mastering that. Then the ENIAC computer and the rest came in to start the electronic revolution. And then you had the TVs and all of that in there. So for those of us who are Africans, we should just pause for a minute. Where were our ancestors when the first, second, and third revolution were taking place? So here comes the fourth revolution, where there are representatives. There's some interesting things about the fourth revolution, though. We don't even have to leapfrog. We can just disrupt. We can just set a new lane and actually catch on with it. And there's some fundamentals. It's almost a level playing field because the fundamentals driving the revolution are actually very accessible to all of us. It's cloud computing. People, if you think of it carefully, cloud computing. Cloud computing has made it so easy for me, just ordinary me, I can get 10 times more computing power than all the banks in Nigeria just with cloud computing. I'll just subscribe to Amazon, or Microsoft Azure, and bingo. If I need it for 10 minutes, I'll get the computing power for 10 minutes, I pay for 10 minutes, I walk away. That is unthinkable barely 5 years ago. So that means the man on the street or the man in his bedroom can actually innovate with, at minimum cost and at very, very efficient rate. So that's one. But the other technology is driving it. The information technology and the speed of computing is driving it. Data is fueled by data and a lot of data analytics as well, really. So the only thing stopping us from participating in this revolution is ourselves. Because if we can apply our mind to find solutions, and we can galvanize an ecosystem to support us, to raise the funding, to get the help and assistance we need in developing robust business plans and executing them, then we can be part and parcel of this revolution. The biggest ingredient to drive in fintech is data. Whether you want to offer credit facilities or innovate new products in terms of customer experience, segment customers and personalize the service to them, it is data that is driving that really. So part of that challenge is access to data. Can banks really give out this data? Will NIBs give out this data? Will the central bank allow the data to be provided? And even if they all allow it to be provided, what about data protection? Will the customer grant his permission to build the data? So those are real challenges that we've got to navigate and actually find answers to within our own context. There's open banking that's just started in the UK. That's an attempt to actually resolve those kind of issues. And we must start innovating with Fintech Nigeria and indeed within the wider Fintech world to start finding local solutions that drive our own markets and our own industry. Really. Regulation. There's a lack of clarity on regulatory requirements. I mean, you hear conflicting regulatory views and opinions from time to time. But you can't blame the regulators really, because when you are innovating, the regulators will always be one step behind. So they are forever learning. And the regulators are also playing catch up, to be quite honest. So it's our job, and part of Fintech Nigeria's role is actually to work with regulators to bring them up to speed, galvanize them, and let them understand. So there are many answers that we can provide, and we are providing through a number of initiatives as well. So what's the future we're talking about here? Well, if you only take a step back, and park the hype for a minute, whether people like it or not, blockchains are here to stay, and there are lots of things that blockchains will change with time. Yes, the technology is not quite where we want it to be, the wider infrastructure is not quite where we want it to be, but like all disruptions, it will start slowly and very quickly you will just see it take over as a way really. So lots of space there. Digital is everything. Every business will become digital, whether you like it or not. You will become digital. So even if you're selling fast food, you want people to be able to order your food in a very simple manner using their phones. You want to collect your payments, using a simple payment system, not moving cash around as a way. So you have to go digital. So it's inevitable. Now we can do all of these, but security is going to be huge. So while everybody's running fintech, maybe somebody should be running SecTech, security tech, because that space is a huge potential. We have to protect it. Just think of it for a minute. It was in the press the other day that a bank lost about 11 billion naira. Digitally, somehow. So have you actually thought, in the analog world, how many bullion vans will a robber have to rob? And over what period to take 11 billion naira? probably like 20 vans a day for 1 year to pick that kind of amount. In the digital world, 5 seconds, it's gone. You won't see. So huge space in there. Yeah, and of course, customer intelligence, because the customer is everything. Yeah, if you can personalize the service and you can predict the next action, then you're a winner as far as that's concerned, really.
Highlight of the event was the interactive session on the Fintech Regulation Bill and Framework, coordinated by Council Member Dr. Olayinka David West. Dr. Segun Aina and Mr. Adebajo must speak further on the Fintech Nigeria social meet and key developments in the industry.
Today, which doubles that the day we're having our second social meet and also celebrating the 1-year anniversary, we benefited a lot from what has happened. The intellectual aspect of it featured a presentation on fintech and the future of fintech, whether it's here to stay or something. And you can see from the feedback that we believe that fintech has come here to stay and is part of the fourth industrial revolution that Nigeria must really, plug itself into. We have all it takes to be a global leader in terms of technology, in terms of innovation, which will help to galvanize our economy, into greater levels. We need all that we need to do. We need to do what we need to do to ensure that we create the enabling environment for our dynamic and creative youth to be able to come up with brilliant ideas that will make them to change the world, that make them to become employers of labor, rather than people just looking for salary jobs.
Fintechs have a very strategic role to play in the development of not just Nigeria but Africa. You hear a lot of talk about the first, second, third industrial revolution. Now we're in the fourth industrial revolution. And there's some interesting dynamics about the fourth industrial revolution. One of those dynamics is the advent of cloud computing. Cloud computing has made it so easy for even me as an individual to gain far more computing power than all the banks in Nigeria put together for the time I need it. And I can get it from basically my bedroom to do any compute work that I want to do, and innovate as much as I want, as much as my ideas and commercial and entrepreneurial skills take me. So that's created, or it's lowered the barriers to entry. And if you look at the country that we're in, and indeed Africa as a whole, we have lots of people, we have lots of clever people, we have lots of opportunities to innovate for Africa-centric solutions. Let's even just fix the issues within our environment. And we have an opportunity to be part and parcel of the fourth industrial revolution to grow our markets. And that's really why you see the fintech revolution growing, really. The fintechs are popping up everywhere, and they're finding creative ways to do things. They're bringing about efficiencies, they're disintermediating the market, and they're creating a lot of products, both for the social good and indeed for commercialization. So, it's something that, the fintech and Nigeria, that's the Association of Fintechs in the country, strongly believe in. And Fintech Nigeria's aim is to galvanize and act as a single voice for the issues that are and the challenges that fintechs face, and actually help drive policy and help drive best practice within the industry, and ensure that the fintech revolution stays, it thrives in Nigeria and it grows.
Nigeria's economic challenges present immense opportunities for the fintech industry to address. With an enabling regulatory environment, robust clusters and hubs, alongside collaborations with financial institutions and stakeholders, Fintech Nigeria could be on the pathway of deepening financial inclusion in the country.